There's the 63 car, Eric van der Poel leaving the pits, hits that tyre with the front of his car. This is leaving the pits. Then as he gets about a halfway around the lap, he has this spin at the first chicane, bound into the guardrail, and somehow gets away with it.
In the fourth hour, the Audi that had pole position made an inexplicable mistake, leaving one of the S's, Stefano Ortelli, at the wheel, got away with it.
Then hour 7, we saw something magical here. The complete back end of Alan McNish's car, because of the crash with Ortelli, was changed. Suspension, gearbox changed in under 4 minutes. Completely astounded everybody who had heard they could do this. Now they saw it in action. Believe it or not, 4 minutes later, Alan McNish was back on the racetrack.
That was the most amazing thing. And then just a little bit later, the second car came in, the number 7 car, and had the same treatment. Not quite as quick this time. It was only about 5 minutes and change.
This was impressive. This was impressive. This is the type of thing that has won this race for Audi also. Into hour 12. Now we have Cato, one of the Panoz cars, backs it into the gravel trap, got away with it with no damage. It wasn't the only Panoz to go off the road, though. Hour 13. The Corvette gets in trouble. This is the lead car. They pushed it all the way down the pit lane.
And in the 17th hour, that's just very recently, this massive accident, the worst by far, Walter Brun of the race, taking out one of the Vipers, not the Oreca Works Vipers, but a privately entered Viper, obviously out of the race for good.
Magnussen. This is the car Andretti shares with him. Just manages to miss the tires, but plows through the gravel trap.
Putting more gravel on the road, which has been a pain to everybody. And here's Mario Andretti. Just a few moments ago, the left front tire went down, going through that extremely fast right-hander on the way into the Indianapolis left-hander. He just clipped the rail there. The car is, as we speak, being fixed up in the garage area.
And remember, that's the same car that Magnussen went off with, so this car has really taken a beating.
Absolutely. Yikes. I can't tell you how fast it is down the hill to Indianapolis, and Mario has a mechanical failure, and as he says himself with a quiver in his voice, he dodged a big one. Well, 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 he did dodge a big one.
64 Corvette, we hear, is in the garage at the moment. That vet running in 9th position, menacing the Chrysler. Andrew is down there to tell us more. Andrew?
Yes, Sam, and I wish I could tell you a lot more, but I can't tell you that much. They pushed the car back into the garage. They've just taken the bonnet off. They don't seem to be doing much. They've got a great big fan cooling it, and I really can't tell exactly what the problem is here. There isn't that much work going on. It may be a problem starting it. Frank Freon is still in the cockpit, and somebody working down the left-hand side, and there's quite a lot of pushing and shoving. So they're pushing the car, they're having trouble. Oh, now it's fallen off one of the jacks, and this is a bit of a disaster here in this garage. As you can see, lots of problems, lots of shouting going on.
Well, they maintain a very slight lead over the Panoz, number 22. A 2-minute lead at the end of the last lap. That obviously is evaporating now. This car is slipping from 9th to 10th.
This was the lead Corvette, of course. It was behind 2 Chryslers, but it was leading the other Corvette, the 63 Corvette. So that's a bit of bad luck for the Corvette to lose their lead car like that.
Yeah, Kelly Collins, one of the drivers, Andy Pilgrim, he followed him just about 40 minutes ago. He had a great stint in that car, dust up with the Viper, managed to catch and pass the Viper during one of those stints. So that is a sad picture as one of the Corvettes, and this is serious mechanical trouble. When they back you in and they begin to put axle stands underneath, you are in big major league trouble.
This is the turn at Arnage, the town of Arnage, off to the left, as we now take a look at a full field rundown. The point being here that more than 30 of the 48 original starters still running, despite many, many incidents. And I think the difference, David, is that this year, maybe more than ever, the teams are equipped to put their cars back into the fray. Almost no matter how seriously injured they have been.
Boy, that Courage there was taking a bit of a risk going down the inside of that much heavier Viper going through the Indianapolis. As you can see from that full field rundown, Alan McNish in the 9 car is only 2 minutes and 24 seconds behind the lead car, the number 8 car. and he is lapping about 3 seconds a lap quicker at the moment. And of course, we've still got an hour and 50 minutes to go to pick up that 2 minutes and 24 seconds. And of course, 2 more pit stops for both those cars are going to come in between now and the end, although I imagine both drivers will stay right through to the end now.
And McNish has set almost all of the fast laps of the race, and the ones that he has not set have been set by his teammates. So he is ready, I'm sure, to really burn up the track.
They appear to have the fastest car. As we watch, the Cadillac still runs around. This is the number 2 car. This was Wayne Taylor, Max Agnelli, and Eric Vanderpoel. They were in all sorts of trouble earlier. They've been off the road. This is the GT leader, Dick Barber's car. We followed him earlier. We had an interview with Dick Barber, so we followed their progress. But for those of you who just woke up in North America, this has been a long stint, unprecedented coverage by Speed Vision to bring you this coverage. And happy Father's Day to all the daddies back in North America. I believe Calvin is down there with the GT leader.
Yes, Lucas Luhr has jumped out. It's going to be Dirk Muller taking this car again, hopefully to the checkered flag this afternoon. What a performance by this team. They're up by a bunch of laps. This will be their 4th consecutive victory this year. They've had 3 wins in the ALMS, and Dick Barber returns to Le Mans, and he won here 3 times before, going through 79 through 81, and he's put together a tremendous team led by Tony Dow, previously with TWR. He's got 2 young hot shoes in the car, and also the veteran Bob Wallach. Andrew, you have more on the vet story possibly?
Yes, I do. Frank Freon is still sitting at the wheel here. It's a problem with a jammed starter motor. This is obviously a major disappointment. Such a stupid thing, but the starter motor is jammed. They don't appear to be changing it yet. They are still working around the side of the car. Also have an update on Justin Bell. He has been taken to the medical center. I don't think it's serious, but he obviously needs to be rehydrated.
Okay, we are now seeing the kind of bravery, frankly, that the mechanics involved with motor racing often display. Here's a man underneath the car, which is red hot, working as fast as he can. They had dropped that car off the jacks. There's no guarantee it wouldn't happen again with him under the car. I mean, these guys are...
Those air jacks, I mean...
Boy, I'll tell you.
All it needs is some other hot-headed mechanic to clip the wrong switch.
And
they've got some stands.
They've got some stands, but, you know, these men take enormous risks and go unsung, many of them.
The 83 car that we just saw come in leading the GT class, the Dick Barber car, which we just saw leave, is 11 laps in front of number 2 in that GT class, which is the 73 car. The 73 car of Team Taizan Porsche.
As we watch, we mentioned Bob Wallach's car, that GT category lost in a US entry, Mike Colucci's car, when Shane Lewis had a huge crash, not his fault, earlier in the race, and he disappeared.
Be a pilot.
Now grueling Le Mans 24-hour race. If you think you do 40 gear changes in 1 lap around here, you do about 360 continuous laps if you run at the front. That alone means you're going to change gear 14,000 times if you're going to try and win this race. But now we seem to have a rash of mechanical problems. This was one of them here. This was 2nd place in the GT category. Andrew, you there?
Yes, with another heartbreak story, but I think this car is going to go back on the racetrack. They have pushed the car out. They have just changed a drive shaft on this 73 car with the 2 Japanese drivers and, of course, Bruno Lambert, the Brussels-based driver. But that car leads now, and it's going well. Calvin, to you.
Yeah, the 51 car is in, Andrew, the leader in the GTS. It's going to be Beretta turned over to Dupuis to try and take this to the checkered flag again. Update on the 64 Corvette. It is back out. It was not the starter motor, in fact, but an electrical wire had come disconnected. They searched feverishly. They managed to find the problem. Got in power again. I believe it's Frank Freon behind the wheel. But yet again, another routine stop for the Oreca team here in GTS.
Dominic Dupuis, you see him leave. He started his racing career in 1983, just down the road here at the Elf Winfield School at Magny Cours.
We were leading overall in 79 and had a flat tire, a suspension problem, and relegated to 2nd overall, but 1st in class. And that's with Paul Newman and Rolf Straumann, my dear friend. And so that probably had to be the most exciting time.
Just look at this gorgeous view on a hot summer's day at the Le Mans 24-hour race. We are 90 degrees today. We've been almost 90 degrees yesterday. Probably the hottest and physically one of the most difficult Le Mans 24-hour races in recent memory. We've seen Justin Bell collapse. They took him out of the car. He is receiving medical attention as we speak. The physical effort to drive the Corvette was such that he actually collapsed at the end of his stint just about 40 minutes ago.
The airport that you saw off to the right, a number of private jets have been taking off throughout the 24 hours here, shuttling executives back to Paris, which is a 2.5-hour drive or an hour and a half on the TGV to fancy hotels, and bringing them back out to watch their machinery in action.
Regrettably, our private jet is not at the airport.
Magnussen, you can see, back out in the car that Andretti put in the wall in one of the scariest moments that he's had for a long time. He could hardly talk. It shook him so badly. 190-mile-an-hour crash when the tire blew, and he just puts a lap on Ron Fellows in the number 63 Corvette that is now down to 2 drivers, Chris Neifel and Ron Fellows. I doubt Justin Bell will be back in that car.
And of course the 63 Corvette has now taken over 10th position from the 64 car, which we saw in the pits. The 64 car has led most of the time here. The 63 Corvette is now leading its sister car in 10th position, but of course the 2 Chrysler Vipers are in 7th and 8th position overall, leading the GTS class.
7 laps ahead, believe it or not. So after 22 laps, the Vipers are now 7 laps ahead of the Corvette. The fight is not as strong or as fierce as it was about 2 hours ago. I believe that is or is that the Pilgrim car? That's the 64 car. Pilgrim, Collins, and Frank Freon. Freon behind the wheel just past the number 52. It's not for position. That's the Tommy Archer, Duez, and Patrick Heisman car. Not for position, so the vet may have made it slightly more difficult. But Tommy Archer has been involved in this battle all night long. And how fresh is he?
Well, he says he's very fresh. Tommy, you're feeling good, but it's been a strong battle with you and the vets throughout this one.
I'll tell you what, the whole race long, it's what we expected. We expected it to be a good battle with the Corvettes, and it's proved to be that. The 53 car, I think, just got up into 2nd place, and the 51 car has been strong all night long. It'd have been nice to be 1, 2, 3, but we just didn't have it. Our luck wasn't with us in our car.
With these high ambient temperatures and the front engine machines with GTS, seems like some of the drivers have been struggling with dehydration. Any problems on the Oreca team?
There's a few guys that are struggling a little bit with the temperature. It's really hot out there. Very, very hot in the car. You just got to kind of relax and not try to overdo yourself.
Okay, mate. We'll have a good stint. Try and bring it home.
All right. See you later.
Calvin, you might ask, we have an email here from Rick Doria who wonders why they don't wear cool suits.
Well, I think the concern is if those cool suits go bad, Sam, I mean, if they're working effectively, it's great. You really get a shot in the arm when you turn those things on. But if you have those cool suits on, it's like a plastic bag around you. And if suddenly the cold water starts flowing, you literally bake. So I don't think they've perfected the system yet. A lot of the guys will use the skull cap. But again, over 24 hours and with the problems we see in the race cars, sometimes they will fail also.
And also, Calvin, one of the problems is you have to refill the cooling system every time you make a pit stop. In other words, the ice that cools the liquid that runs around the cool suit must be replenished also, and the team do not consider that a valuable time spent.
Well, and of course, the other way you could do it, of course, is if you have like a refrigerator unit on board so you don't have to bother with ice. But of course, that's just another electrical thing to go wrong on the car and another thing to be looked after.
And if you drive an air conditioner from the engine, you sap horsepower. However, go ask Bob Wallach. He said for 10 years he's been trying to convince the Porsche engineers to put air conditioning inside these fully closed cars because he believes the drivers over long distances when they're cool ultimately are faster. He might be right. We are back. We are still live at the Le Mans 24-hour race with an interesting email question, Sam.
First, an observation, which is we watch this Chrysler. You know, a Chrysler first appeared at Le Mans in 1925, just 2 years after the first Le Mans, and gave Le Mans its international flavor for the first time. All right, here's the email. Good morning, all, writes Jeremy Hartman. Thank you. He's from Birmingham, Alabama. What are the most laps ever completed at Le Mans in a 24-hour period? And we turn to Professor Daly, who has this stat taped to the wall here in our booth.
I happen to have it right here. It was 1971. It was the fastest ever race. Helmut Marko and Guys van Lennep were the drivers in a Porsche, and they covered a total of 3,334 miles, which is still the record. At that time, it was 388 laps of that particular design of racetrack. If they ran that many miles on this track today, they would cover 392 laps, which of course is virtually impossible because the average speed is lower because of the chicanes mainly, and of course the regulations to try and slow these cars down.
And you know that is exactly 615 laps around David Hobbs' stomach.
Yes, wow. On a good day.
Yeah.
Calvin, let's talk to Tommy.
TK, I believe that'll be your last run. Your thoughts on Le Mans for the very first time?
Well, we're still trying to hang on here. The engine's kind of gone soft, lost about 500 revs that last session, and so we've just moved on to the first page of the scoring screen, and so, you know, they say it's not over till it's over, so we're kind of just trying to hang on, but the experience was outstanding, unbelievable.
That's the good thing. David Loring, I was there to say, and if you fold the sheet in half with the standings and you're not on the top half, don't bother looking any further, right?
Well, I shouldn't have bothered to look all night then. We just crept on up there, and those guys in front of us are running pretty strong, so, you know, anything can happen, but we kind of knew going in that we needed them to falter to run with them, but the learning experience, getting a feel for this place to come back next year has been excellent.
Mario had a big one down in Indianapolis. He had a tire blowout right through the right-hander. Tell us about the scary parts of this racetrack during the night, during the day. What impressions did you get?
Well, you kind of get lulled into a false sense of security after doing it for a while. I mean, you are just hauling ass all the time, and going into Indianapolis, it just funnels down there. That's probably the scariest part, getting down to the one marker. You just brush the brakes, click it in fifth, and then you go through there. That's in our car, and they're doing that in the prototypes, and so that's a tough one. I had a tire go down there. It didn't fail, but it started to go soft. Fortunately, I had slowed it all the way down, but you try not to think about the consequences because they are huge here.
This has certainly whetted your appetite in coming back next year?
No question.
All right, mate, we look forward to seeing you.
He makes a very good point about how the speed becomes abstract. You're
really
going so fast for so long.
It's great to see Tommy here because he disappeared off the radar for quite a long time. He's only 33 years of age, and having won those 4 Trans Am titles, it was hard to believe he didn't get a drive. One of the interesting things he told us as we watched the Cadillac make another pit stop, they are not in contention really for anything here as Wayne Taylor gets in. But one of Tommy Kendall's problems, because of his accident 9 years ago, his right ankle was so badly damaged it was fused. So since then, he uses the brake, uses his left foot for the brake. When he came here, and that is Tommy Kendall's right foot, but when he came here to drive the Porsche 911, which he's never raced before, he now had to go back to a right foot brake situation and a heel toe, as we watch Mark Coughlin. You remember, people know him from Sportsmark, a public relations company in North America. But braking with his right foot, heel toeing as the normal road racing style, was difficult for Tommy to change his style when he came here and learn the track and go at these type of speeds.
And it's very difficult to do a clutchless change with a synchromesh gearbox, which the Porsche's got, which is the real key with a box, a racing box, which is a real crash box with straight cut teeth. You can change gear without using the clutch. The synchro, you're stumped.
It's a very good point. Porsche in the 962s, 956s, 935s always had synchromesh racing gearboxes, most unusual. The Audi that we watch here, their gear changes, as we know from what Alan McNish told us earlier on, they never take their hands off the steering wheel. It is electronic and hydraulic gear changing, paddles up and paddles down, right hand, left hand, which, believe it or not, makes it physically much, much easier as Tommy Archer climbs aboard Viper number 52. Welcome back to the desired location in northwest France. That is the podium. that only one team will get to walk out upon. They used to take all three of the podium finishers out there. Now they just take the winner, so that is a very prestigious place to be, somewhere where Mario Andretti has never been. Believe it or not, the only jewel in that enormous crown that he can wear as one of the, as maybe the greatest racing driver in the world.
And somebody will be out there in an hour and 24 minutes.
Yeah, and if you followed what we did earlier on, you saw him have a big one that he escaped very lightly from, a 190-mile-an-hour crash. That was a mechanical failure, and that absolutely got his attention. And when Calvin Fish got in to speak to him within seconds of him being out of the car, Mario could hardly talk. The heartbeat was so fierce.
It was pretty jolly scary, because I mean, it was so fast there. I mean, that is, well, it's the fastest. There's 4 places on this track where you reach around about 200, and that's one of them.
This is the Sequel car, Sequel Motorsports car, number 76. We spoke to John Burgess earlier on. He is in this car.
You got a sense for the enormous crowd that flows here. It's by far the biggest automobile race in terms of crowd in Europe, 208,000 last year, but of course that's an unofficial count. Andrew Marriott is now down with young Beltoise. Andrew? Well,
can you hear us, Andrew? We are going to get to Andrew.
Yeah, I am with Anthony Beltoise here. We're having a bit of communication problems here, Anthony. Now, this is your rookie year here, but you're French, your father raced here. You must have heard so much about Le Mans. Does it live up to the expectations?
Yes, this is my first participation here, and it's very fantastic. The public and the car is very good. Now we have 1 hour and a half to finish. We are to try to keep the car good, and let's wait and see.
What about the physical side of it? Because it's very hot in these Vipers.
To drive in this condition is very, very difficult. 2 hours ago, I have to push very hard. Before the Corvette is just behind us. So I have really pushed very hard, and at the end of my stints, I go out the car and I was really cooked.
Is your father here to see you race?
Yes, he was here yesterday for the start, but now it's at his home on TV.
Watching at home on TV. Anthony, well done, and congratulations on a good drive.
He's only 28 years of age. Of course, carrying the Beltoise name in France, everybody knows what his dad did in Monaco. What year was that?
I think it was 1970. And it was a very, very, very wet race in a BRM. It was either 70 or 71.
Monaco Grand Prix, one of those unusual races, Formula One race, and rained, and he came home a winner in that BRM car. Andrew?
Yeah, I was there that particular day. The funny thing is that Anthony Anthony Beltoise, it's been a long, long day and night. Anthony Beltoise is about a foot taller than his father. But he's got beautiful, bright blue eyes. His father was a dark little, very Gallic man with a partly crippled arm, if you remember.
Oh, dear. So does this mean to say that...
No, David, don't go down that hallway. We can recall instead, to put another thought in everyone's mind, that another great French driver, Jean Barra, drove with a plastic ear. Now, there's a obscure stat to get you off what you were thinking.
What did he do?
He had a plastic ear.
Huh?
Jean Barra. Oh.
God, you fell for it.
I did fall for it. There is the turn at Arnage, which leads you back toward the Porsche curves and then the pits. The total track just over 8 miles around, beautifully paved. We haven't spoken of that. This is as billiard smooth, which is a cliche, but it really applies here, as any track is anywhere in the world.
The one place it's a bit tricky for these drivers, of course, is on the main Mulsanne Straight where those 2 chicanes are, because that is a very, very, very major truck route. And apparently it's got a lot of, you know, the 4-wheel tracks that the trucks make, 2 going north, 2 going south. And when these cars with those big, wide, flat tires and very stiff suspension cross those lines, apparently it makes these cars very, very twitchy.
We still have 1.5 hours to go. We've covered 348 laps.
Mans, 31 years ago. It was the last year for the running start, and it looked to be Porsche's first victory. Their new 917s and proven 908s dominating from the beginning and looking invincible. But one by one, they retired. And when the leading 917 was pushed away with only 3 hours remaining, the Ford GT40 of Jackie Eakes and Jackie Oliver held a slim lead over the surviving Porsche 908 of Hans Hermann and Gerard Larousse. For the last hour, Eakes and Hermann swapped the lead back and forth, sometimes more than once a lap. Out of White House for the final time, they appeared. And it was Eakes by, well, you see, it was the closest finish in Le Mans history. Well,
Welcome back.
I remember that vividly, that 69 finish. I was in the race, and those two cars, Eakes and Hermann, passed me on their last lap with a plane covering the action, a big cargo plane with the back of it removed and a camera. It couldn't have been 100 feet above the Mulsanne Straight. Even finishing 8th where I did, it was exciting to be part of that duel.
I remember it particularly well because that race really should have been for second place, because Mike Hailwood and I were leading the 6th car of Eakes and Oliver by about 5 laps at 5 o'clock in the morning, when we had a small hole chipped into the brake pipe by a wheel weight that had been stuck on the rim in the wrong place, and it chipped a little tiny hole in the brake pipe, and it took them a long time to find it, and we lost about 6 laps, and we lost the race by 2.
Between the three of us here in the booth, we have 34 Le Mans 24-hour races. I only have 4. Sam has 10. And Hobbo here has 20 starts of the Le Mans 24-hour race as we watch Alan McNish stay in for a double stint. But I mean, how many miles have we collectively run here? Because I finished most of the races here.
And none of us have managed to win it.
No, although I came here with very good teams.
I did. I mean, yeah, that's what I say at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, we all did.
When you say the Yost team is a shoe-in, I tell you what, no team is a shoe-in, because I've driven with Yost here before, and we were absolutely touted as the #1.
Calvin, see anything?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, a bit of a problem down here. This came in was a routine stop, and then the #7 machine driven by Christian Abt, I believe, pulled in as well. Very congested here, a lot of photographers, a lot of press, and actually one of the photographers got bowled over by the #7 as he pulled into his slot. So, and they then had to back Alan's machine up to get him out and clear the way. So, but routine starts for both cars. Other than that, no tires, just fuel.
Interesting.
And another windscreen on Christian Abt's car.
We discussed that earlier on. They appear to put a little windscreen deflector on, and we tried to decide what it was about, but it appears that the different head heights of the different drivers in these cars, they will put a specific windscreen on to actually clean it up aerodynamically, I presume.
Let me tell you, as we watch this Courage go around, it has completed 327 laps. The lead Audi has completed 349, 22 laps more. It is quite possible that without that exceptional planning by the Yost team and the pit work that they have done, they would be in the clutches of this car right here. This car could be in contention, leading the race, not far adrift.
We just got a real quick glimpse of the number 75 GT 911 Porsche. That is the Gunnar Jeanette car. Michael Lauer and Mike Brockman. There it is right there. Is that ready to go? We've got a driver in that, but nobody else around it. Is there a driver in that car? Maybe they did not get it, but to follow up what Kevin Jeanette, Gunnar's dad, told us earlier on, he wanted to do 26 more laps to be classified as a finisher in the GT category. That would have taken him 1 hour and 44 minutes. He didn't have that much time left, so maybe Gunnar Jeanette may not go down in the history books as the youngest ever finisher of a race here at the Le Mans 24-hour race. He is the second youngest starting driver ever, the youngest being Ricardo Rodriguez from the great Rodriguez brothers, Pedro and Ricardo, who both lost their lives in motorsports. We are back live. This is the Courage car. Of course, great French interest here in this car with the Peugeot engine. 328 laps. So they are 22 laps behind the leading car. But you know what? That's not bad. That's about a lap in an hour But of course, the freight train that's at the head of the field is the Audis, led by a man who's won here many times in the past, Reinhold Jost, and I believe we can get him with Calvin.
Well, he's one of the coolest customers, certainly. He's here in the shade by the pit wall. Reinhold, what a performance. There's a long way to go, I know. I'm sure you're still nervous and apprehensive, but a great performance so far by the team.
But the race is not finished yet, you know. It's 1 more and 15 minutes hour. So I want not say it was a nice race. We win, you know. You know the race. It's everything. Every time you have some risk, you know.
You've been here so many times before. When is the most nervous moment for you? In the preparation before the race, when you have trouble, or at the end sometime like this?
I think the last 2 hours is very difficult.
Also, the number 7 car, Reinhold, has been your lucky number for so many years. Every time you've won here 4 times now, it's been with the number 7. But the other 2 cars certainly have an advantage right now. Does that mean anything, or if any of them will win, will be okay?
No, I think the car was very good, was very fast, and was the leading car for a long time. But, you know, this is racing. So it was a small problem with the rear, and the car had a small accident. So we lost another 2 laps, and that is all.
Okay, well, great performance. Always wonderful to watch your team in action. Let's go down to Andrew.
Yeah, I've got Gunnar Jeanette here, youngest man in the race, of course. Gunnar, what an experience for you.
Yeah, this was the best racing experience of my entire life.
Now, what's actually going on here? But you aren't sitting in the car, nobody's rushing around.
We had a crack in the number 1 cylinder, so we ended up leaking water and the car wouldn't have lasted. So we just cut that cylinder out and ran it on 5 for a while. And we just basically wanted to finish. This is our first time here. And we just wanted to go home with the finish. So we're just we did the mandatory amount of laps that we had to do in order to count as a finish. And now we just have to take the checker. So we're just getting everything ready. Wanted to just make sure that the engine would last.
How many laps will you do at the end? How many laps will you do at the end? Will you just do a couple of laps?
Yeah, just like 2 or 3. It's not going to be me, it's going to be the car owner, Michael Lauer.
Well, thanks very much, and congratulations on a good run. He's a teenager. What are you, 18? 18? How old are you, 18?
18, yes.
18-year-old and at Le Mans.
I believe he mentions that the owner, Michael Lauer. I believe Michael Lauer has a whole fleet of racing cars. I think he has the GTP Nissan. In fact, I think he has that I drove at Sebring back in 1988 and 89. So I think he has quite a collection of cars.
The Audis have, of course, performed absolutely beautifully. And the thing that stands out among them is their incredible mechanical sophistication, a 610 horsepower V8 bi-turbo engine, pneumatic shifting, power steering, the aerodynamics developed in a full-scale wind tunnel with a rolling road underneath it. There is literally nothing technical in the world of racing that has not been considered for this machine or applied to it. It's an extraordinary concept laid down by the great designer Tony Southgate and then carried out by an engineering staff that contains at least 5 PhDs in engineering. David, I think we're looking at something that's halfway between engineering and art. And it has, of course, proven to be a fabulous instrument of sport as well here in the last 24 hours.
Well, of course, Tony Southgate, too. It's worth mentioning that I first worked with Tony Southgate when I was driving for Eric Broadley and Lola back in the early 60s. And Tony came on board literally straight out of university. And he himself, of course, is a top flight engineer. And he was saying to us the other day that at the back of the pits there, they've got a fleet of officers, obviously all temporary officers, built up out of those containers, and they have 9 permanent computer staff in there working on those computers all the time, extracting data out of these cars, downloading it, taking it, using it. I mean, these cars aren't, I mean, he comes up with a concept and then they just put that thing together and come out, and as you say, these cars
right now those men are watching and monitoring any number of things aboard the car live.
I mean, they know everything. They know the temperature in every single cylinder now. They know exactly the pressure in every cylinder. It's quite incredible.
And equally incredible is that all 3 cars have finished. And the adage that you have got to stay out of trouble has never been better illustrated. Because
well, of course, but they've been pretty jolly lucky on staying out of trouble, because that crash that Ortelli had last evening, when he put 2 wheels over the edge coming through Indianapolis, he zapped that nose onto the guardrail. I mean, he gave it a pretty fair clap.
I agree.
But
what I was thinking was,
not to be out
of the 3, the one that has not been off the road is the one that's leading the race.
I see what you mean. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the hard lesson learned.
And remember, the number 7 car with Christian Abt also went off the road.
Exactly,
this is the only car that did not go off the road. So, as you watch the control tower in Stamford, Connecticut, remember that lots of people on Speed Division staff on both sides of the Atlantic worked very hard to bring you unprecedented coverage.
Welcome back to Speed Vision's live coverage of the 68th running of this great classic race at Le Mans. We have just a little over an hour to go. We have 23 hours in the bag, and we are looking at the car that started from the pole, ran the fastest throughout, but has run into the most trouble. We're talking about the McNish, Aiello, Ortelli Audi with the yellow panels on it right here. A car which has been fated to spend a little more time in the pits than its sister cars, and as a result is running 3rd among the Audis, which are running 1, 2, 3. It is currently the fastest of the 3 Audis on the track, but David Hobbs, it is back 2 laps from the number 9 car, which is running in 2nd place, and it is 3 laps back from the number 8 car, which is leading the race. And I think at this point, it may be a lost cause, despite the fact McNish, who was the fastest driver in the Audi team, is at the wheel.
Well, the trio driving this car, of course, won this race driving for Porsche 2 years ago, and they were overjoyed to be able to get together again to drive this car, and felt they had a tremendous symbiotic relationship. But unfortunately, Stefano Ortelli yesterday evening put 2 wheels over the edge going through the Indianapolis curve, spun the car, nosed it into the guardrail quite hard, and put the 2 wheels into gravel. This ultimately led, just a couple of hours later, to them changing the gearbox, which in itself was worth tuning into Speed Vision's live coverage of this race, because in 3 minutes and 47 seconds, they changed the gearbox and the entire rear suspension on this car, and from that point on, it's pretty well run faultlessly. But it did lose them just about a lap with that 3:57 minute change, and they've had a couple of other little tiny instances where they've slipped up just a little bit, and these cars are all so incredibly evenly matched that that's all it's taken to take this car out of the lead and put it to the back of this trio.
That gearbox change has forever raised the bar in long-distance racing. No team that's going to call themselves seriously a team can ever expect to go into a race unable to do that now. They've just raised the bar big time.
And the next thing is going to be the engine.
When you talk about their preparation, don't forget, last year they were the only manufacturer to enter both open and closed cockpit prototypes.
The place, Le Mans, France. The time, 1 hour to go in this great 24-hour classic. Le Mans 2000 started on a cloudless summer afternoon. The crowd was huge and festive. The track was jammed with 200-mile-an-hour prototypes jostling for position. The tires ran hot. The engines ran hot. Drivers baked in their cockpits. The melting track grew slippery. The Audis led. 3 low silver projectiles pushed hard by ambitious drivers that knew that to win they had to beat the other members of their team. As the long afternoon eased toward twilight, the hot air was filled with beauty, light raking across the grass and glinting off the cars. The night air, still warm, was suffused with light, headlights carving a bright tunnel, the pits glowing, the Audis still ahead. And now we have come again to the afternoon, and the air is again thick and hot. It is filled with the sounds of engines and of excitement, the special excitement of Le Mans. And now, with just an hour to go, boy, it's hard not to feel it. Derek Daly, David Hobbs. I'm starting to vibrate a little bit up here. You see the empty podium, which just an hour from now will be, of course, a very festive place.
And you just have to be here to appreciate what Le Mans is all about. I mean, everything, the sights and the sounds. And this is unprecedented coverage by Speed Vision. So many people put in such an effort to bring you live coverage. We only broke away, remember, for 1.5 hours to see live qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix that you'll also see later on live on Speed Vision. But the Lingner Group out of Indianapolis brought a fleet of people here, an army, and hooked everything together, taped all the wires together, and it all works when it needs to. And it has been a magical occasion, unprecedented coverage in America of an event of this stature. And of course, Woods Communications is our link to Europe over here. When Woods and Lingner get together, we see the beauty of Le Mans across North America.
And when you walk out the back and look at that TV compound just behind our booth here on top of the grandstand, and you look at all those wires draped around the floor, you just wonder how any of it ever works.
How does it work?
Well, what I want to know is who carries the picture over the Atlantic. I mean, how does that get done?
It's an Audi.
I thought so.
It's an Audi, yeah. Yeah.
We're very lucky. It's
and if anything serious breaks, they can change it in 4 minutes. Less than 4 minutes.
And we see a Cadillac performing here. Here is a team that showed enormous promise, and until a couple of hours ago had a car in the top 5. This is a organization that may once have been known for luxury cars and the design of cup holders. Today, I think they are changing that image around to one known for extremely high performance racing cars with a great future.
And this is the first year, remember, they didn't come here with all the bells and whistles and expect to take on the Audis and beat them at their own game. You have to learn, you have to come here, you have to go through the school of hard knocks, because if this was easy, everybody would be here doing it. But it's great to see Cadillac make such a statement about their global presence now in the automotive world, as opposed to just an American luxury car.
I hate to say this, but the point is that when corporations get involved, you see corporate thinking, which is very long range compared to racer thinking. Racer thinking is, we're going to Le Mans this year, we're going to win. Corporate thinking is, we're going to Le Mans, we're going to be there for 3 years, and, you know, we're going to be competitive.
And then we're going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's another development program. That red Chrysler, the Reynard Mopar team that has Didier Thays, I believe, at the wheel, is another development program that they hope to come on strongly with next year. They only have one car that lasts the distance, and it's been in the pits a long time.